All right. So today is a really special episode of the Chiro Hustle live stream. I couldn't be more happy to have Shaun Clark on with me today. I feel like I got a chance to find a technical software guy that's doing magic work for agencies and helping really all the three things on the ticker below here, business growth that works. It's called automation. And I think that when you guys first came out into this space, like automation was like the seal of approval for like what you're doing to teach people. Like I'll talk about the pie analogy here in a moment, but and then why high level is working, and your ideal clients and what's happening for them, and how you do turn leads into customers. I think those things are like primary, but I know that you have a lot to share on this. So tell us like the impetus and like the why behind high level and how you guys came into the space.
Sure. So, I mean, I've always been a big fan of small businesses. I think they are revolutionary in many ways. And I think they're the backbone and cornerstone of our economy and our country in many ways. So I've always wanted to support them. I mean, they pay better than the average. They care a lot about their communities. They're invested in the day-to-day lives of their employees. And they also just tend to also be very innovative. They have a big motivation to try to find new ways to do things versus larger companies, I think, have the opposite sort of motivation. So I've always wanted to try to find ways to support them. And I've always loved the power of software and its ability to change the world. And so I've always tried to put those themes together in my life.
So you took the small business love and then you said, hey, who's serving the small businesses the best? And
well, like, I mean, I'd love to say that I was that smart. It was more like, hey, yeah, we can go do this. We can go to small businesses and help them directly. We're a couple of engineers. Let's go write some code and make it happen. And then, we ran into the wall. Actually, we ran into the big wall we ran into was, we would show this off to small business owners. They would love it. They would adopt it. And then sort of 2 weeks later, they would call and cancel. And then we're like, I don't get it. You said it was amazing on the demo. What did I miss? And they're like, oh, it is amazing. We just don't have time to set it up. And so, to be honest, we were really beside ourselves in that moment as to what we were going to do. And lucky for us, there was a marketing agency that came along that was working with one of these people. And they said, hey, can we get on a call and look at your platform? And I remember thinking, what in the world am I doing? I'm just wasting my time with this person. They're not my customer, right? So then I got on the phone, and then, not only did they understand the solution, they loved the solution, they bought it for all their customers, they stuck around. They really opened my eyes to the fact that was sort of the aha moment for me. Like, these are the people that create the glue between all of this technology and potential and that small business and the outcome they really need. So as much as I don't want it to go down on the record like I was really super smart and I knew what I was doing, it was totally accidental. But I feel great for having that happen.
So let me ask you, like, that started a little bit of like a smoldering like effect. How long did it take before you guys actually started to catch fire and helping more agencies?
It was almost immediate after that. That agency owner wasn't just like a nice guy with customers who bought our software. He was also, he was an incredibly smart guy, and he totally understood what we were trying to do, but he also understood what we were getting wrong. And so he was very direct with us. He's like, look, you guys need to stop messing around with these business people. You need to start working with agencies. He's like, look, I've already shown it to 13 other agency owners I know. They love it. They want to buy it. And then one of those guys came out and said, hey, I'm going to have a mastermind. And I didn't even know what the heck that is. So it's in San Diego. You fly down on an airplane, you meet it in a room, that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, great. So I showed up, and 40 agencies in the room, they all bought. And so at that point, it was like, all right, let's just drop this other nonsense and just focus on the agencies. It's clear that this is an unserved market. It's clear that there's something here. And then we just sort of developed from there and haven't really looked back since.
So from an engineer perspective to a mastermind perspective to a software perspective, and now to the beloved profession that I serve, the chiropractic market, how have you seen this touching lives in the chiropractic space?
Oh, I mean, again, chiropractors are an incredibly valuable asset to their community. They provide, better health for people, but they're like every small business owner. They're going to be bombarded every day with lots and lots and lots of things they have to do. But one of the biggest things, right, and we've learned this, I mean, many of us knew this pre-COVID, but COVID really brought the point home, like, go digital or be dead. And, ultimately, there's a lot to do online. There's a lot of, and it's ever changing. And the marketing that happens there is, a pretty in-depth technical sort of thing. And so having a platform that helps bring a lot of that stuff down to earth, simplify it, bring agencies into the mix to help those people. I mean, I think it's allowed a lot of those chiropractors to, quite frankly, do what they were doing before, which is focus on their business, focus on their craft, but not see their businesses shrink for it, see their businesses, lose out to competition for it, not to sort of, come under the pressure of bigger, larger corporate entities for it, still continue to thrive and grow.
Yeah, early on, I would tell people, like, with social media, just as like a perspective, like, hey, if you guys don't start like posting like little videos on Instagram and start building like up a profile on your Facebook and start like building up like a presence, there's a kid that's going to come out of school next month, out of Chiro school, and they're going to come into your community and they're going to figure this stuff out. And then you're going to wonder why they're thriving over there. And you're sitting there waiting for people to show up to an empty schedule.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, that's what we were talking about off camera, is like, who's the ideal client for this? And you're like, well, 2 people don't work, but these people do work. So knowing that, what works for people, how can we maximize that going forward? I know you said you have some things that you're working on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think personally for me, the biggest thing going forward for the small business is going to be things like, for example, Google My Business messaging. So, we just turned this on the platform yesterday, but basically, and Google My Business messaging, for the record, has been out for a little bit, but Google has been very adamant, and we've seen this in the beta developer group that we're a part of, where we get to meet with the sort of hear from the Google team directly. They're big into pushing messaging down to not just all businesses in mobile. They're going to roll out in all the ad formats soon. They're going to bring it to desktop, because they really are trying to get people to come to Google and stay in Google. And, what people probably don't like that, but it's gravity. So, you don't have to like gravity. It's still there. And ultimately, I think that's what small businesses are going to see. But the ones that embrace these types of technological changes are going to be winners, because imagine, from the consumer's point of view, they come to Google today, they search today, and right now the option is just call. And the problem with most consumers and most people is we're busy and we don't want to call. We can't call. We're in the middle of, we're traveling to and fro. We're at the office. We're on a Zoom call, right? Like, we can't call. So if somebody has the message button, I'm going to be like, wait a second. Yeah, message. And boom, it pops up this little window right in Google. Now I'm messaging that business. And the nice thing is, for the business owner, it's also, I think, a positive, because right now, every business, whether they know it or not, gets calls today right in the middle of the day that they miss. And most of those calls are people calling in to give them money. The nice thing about messaging is it's an asynchronous form of communication. The consumer doesn't have the expectation of instantaneous results. And so it also kind of helps the business owner get back to that person at a slightly delayed pace without necessarily losing the business. So I think everybody's going to win here, but these are the types of technologies that you need platforms to manage. And, a lot of what we do, for example, is not just take that message and leave it there. We can also automate a lot of that stuff. So when that person reaches out, we can say, hey, do you want to book an appointment, to come in and get a free this, or book in and get an appointment? And that person can write back, yes, I would like to, or sure, that'd be great. And we know with machine learning and AI that means yes. And then we can say, great, here's a link to our, our calendar, grab a time that works for you. And boom, you've just booked in a patient with zero human interaction. And that person had a great experience at the same time. So everybody's winning there, right? So that's the type of thing I think that the platform is very, very useful for in the chiropractic space specifically.
So freaking cool. So let me ask you this. You'll be able to attach the high-level platform to the Google messaging, and so those leads will be captured and be put into their database.
Yeah, that's live right now.
That's so cool. So let me ask you this, rubbing the crystal ball. Do you see that more people will start doing more ad spend through Google and driving people to their Google places?
Not just because of that, but also there's a new ad format called LSA, or local service ads. And local service ads have shown up in the home service verticals and the law vertical so far, and they will eventually roll out to all verticals. And they are very disruptive, actually, because they're not cost per click, they're cost per lead. They're at the very, very top of Google. If you want to see an example of this, search DUI attorney Seattle, and they don't go to a website. They stay right there on Google. And then there's a form right now. There's a form and a call tracking number where you can either ask to be emailed back, ask to be text back, or you can call. And then they're going to move messaging into that later on this year. And so I think with that ad format in particular, you're going to see a huge upswing in the number of advertisers. And again, it's cost per lead, but all the lead costs are low. And then if you don't like the leads, it's the other big thing. Let's say you think, oh, well, that person wasn't good and that person wasn't good. You just hit the little trash can icon and Google will refund your money. So there is a big incentive that they're putting out there to get most people on that. So you put a lot of this sort of stuff together and there's just no way that Google doesn't start to pull a lot of that over. Plus, of course, they don't have the bad press that Facebook does, which I think also helps drive people away from those platforms.
Yeah, and I think that when people do realize the importance of the Google search engine, people don't go to Facebook and use that as a search engine.
Yeah, that's right.
They go to YouTube and use that as a search engine, and they're looking for like do grade stuff and how do I fix something. Like if I had a sciatic nerve problem, I'd go to Google or Facebook. I'd go to YouTube and I'd say, how do I fix a sciatic nerve problem?
That's right.
You don't go to Facebook and do that.
I think most small business owners, if you ask them, like, have you ever used Google AdWords? They'll always say, I tried it. It was terrible. I wasted a lot of money. But the truth of the matter is for most of those people, it's because they just don't know what they're doing. I mean, Google has the most, no one searches like, my sciatic nerve hurts for fun. That's like that's not like, and they're not going to put that into Facebook. It's not going to come up with their friends while they're talking about what restaurant they went to, right? It's a highly targeted search. It's very much saying, I have a problem. And so to think that somehow you can't turn that person into a customer is just ridiculous. If you look at most people, though, the reason why, and I have some experience here on my first business, I built almost exclusively off the back of AdWords, scaled it nationwide, multi-million-dollar business. And it was all off the fact that people searched a term that they were interested in, and I was able to convert them. But if you think about the current process, and this is where I think most small businesses get hung up, they don't know what keywords to buy. And then if they do, they don't know how to write the ad. And if they do, then when I click on the ad, they don't take me to a page that talks about the thing I just searched. They take me to their homepage, but if they don't do that, then they don't have a good call to action. It's like, and if you don't have all those things, if one of those things is missing, well, sorry, your performance is going to be terrible and you are going to waste a lot of money. So I think Google has seen this as a problem. And I think these LSAs are kind of like their version of trying to solve for that. And I think they've done a great job, and being cost per lead, they've really lowered the barrier, I think, of trying it out. So I think they'll be quite successful with it.
Well, let's turn the page back a little bit. I'm going to give this analogy to people about the apples because I think it really makes sense. It's like if we are in grade school again and we go back and we're like, hey, if Shaun got 9 apples and he was able to figure out how to make apple pies because he went home to his mom, she's like, hey, we're going to turn these into apple pie. How many slices of pie does Shaun get at the end of the day when he and his mom make pies out of these 9 apples? And I love that analogy because that's what you've essentially done with Go High Level. You're like, hey, if we have a trigger which gets people to say yes, how do we track this along the continuum to say at the end of the day we had 9 pieces of pie, but as you say, we have a funnel full of money.
Yeah,
so
right.
Can you kind of explain how that matriculates with your business model and how people actually like use your systems?
For sure. So, I mean, our biggest focus is lead to customer, right? And if you look at that problem set, what you find is that a lot of businesses get at bats is what I would look at them as, right? So they get a chance to convert a lead to a customer, and leads come in various formats, right? It could be an inbound call. It could be a chat off your website. It could be a form fill off of a landing page or your homepage or an ad you bought or a Facebook lead ad or you name it. It doesn't really matter. But in that moment, there's a lot that this is where the failure occurs. So those consumers come into the orbit of that business, and what they're anticipating or expecting is an immediate response. And so if you go out and you Google MIT lead study, you'll see a really awesome study that MIT did a couple of years ago where they looked at millions of web-based leads and they followed them from the time they were captured to the time they either closed into a sale or were abandoned. And they tried to determine like, well, why do some go to sale and some don't? And it was amazing because they were able to synthesize really 2 major themes. One was speed to lead. So when the lead comes in, 5 minutes or less, you better be getting back to me, or that's it, you're done, no thanks, I'm moving on. And then from there, if the lead doesn't immediately close, it's can you follow up with me for as many touch points as it takes, right? And we've heard these stats all over the place, it takes an average of 8 touch points, this and that. But that's really where this data comes from. And I can tell you, there's lots and lots and lots of businesses I've seen walk into the platform, and on the same lead source, literally 10x the total number of sales they were getting, because they simply solved for those two issues, right? They were able to get back to leads immediately and then automatically follow up with them until they actually were interested in raising their hand and getting on a call or scheduling an appointment. And that's really the heart of what high level is. It's, hey, you're getting leads. Let's automatically reach out to them in the first 5 minutes or less. And let's automatically follow up with them until we can get them to take action in order to get them in front of the person that they need to get in front of, that can actually make the sale, provide the service, sort of complete the transaction. So that's really what we focused on here.
And that was the front end of this conversation with you, is automation.
Yeah.
And once you get that trigger automation and somebody responds to Shaun, like immediately, like say, hey, I'm looking to come to this place for service.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, if you were to like make a connection on that website or on that ad, next thing you know, you're getting a trigger response saying, hey, Shaun, thanks for checking us out today. How can we help you?
Yep.
And then that's even quicker than 5 minutes.
Oh, no, it definitely. And, there's a lot of science there as well. So like, the how can we help you is actually I would actually tell people never say that. It's always a yes or no question. So humans are really, so if you think about, if you've ever done landing page design or button, sort of like form design, they'll always say, put a button first, make it so I click the button and then I see the form. And the reason why is because you want my mental commitment by clicking that button, right? It helps draw me through that process versus you throw that form at me and it's like, whoa, overload, no thanks. Well, the text messaging or the messaging outreach is totally the same concept. So always ask a yes or no question, because that's what you can get humans to answer. That's like the proverbial button click, right? So you might want to just throw them at the next step, like, oh, here's a link to our calendar, grab a time that works for you. But that's too much for people, right? What you want to say is, hey, would you like to book an appointment? Like pick that thing that you think they want the most. And then you get them to conversate with you. You get the yes or the sure or the sounds good. And now they've clicked that button. And now you can come back and respond. It feels human. It flows nicely. And you get them to make that final booking of the calendar or, filling out the form or running through the survey or whatever it is that you wanted them to do. And now I'm locked in. I'm coming in. I'm going to be a customer.
Yeah. And it warms them up a little bit.
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
It gives them a chance to flow with you rather than force them in.
Exactly.
And I think that's something a lot of people have to understand about marketing is you have to nurture people into the process. I'm sure you've heard this before of like, hey, what about the guy that goes to the bar and he like all of a sudden meets a girl and says, hey, we're going home right now. That never that never happens.
No, I don't. I've never tried that trick myself. I've seen it in the movies. It's not that easy, right? So
no,
it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, precisely. So yeah, lead nurturing is probably the most misunderstood craft and art in almost every business, and particularly in small businesses. And I think chiropractors have this problem in spades. So, it's just about trying to figure out, well, how do I solve for that? And how do I automate that as much as possible? And, if you do that, all you're going to get is a lot more money out the other side. And then in almost every instance, without any real additional spend upfront in new leads. I can't tell you how many people have walked in the door with some kind of lead source and just said how terrible it is. And then when you apply these principles to it and you apply the automation to it, all of a sudden those leads, just blossom into sales they never thought were possible.
Well, I wanted to go back into the action of taking somebody through this nurturing system.
Sure.
And what about this? What if we had like, I guess a typical chiropractor seeing about between 50 to 100 patients a week.
Mm-hmm.
But since they've been open for a decade, they probably have about 30,000 patient files.
Oh yeah. Well, so that's what we call a database reactivation.
Yeah. So can we talk to our audience about how they might be able to integrate what you're doing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way to make money for a chiropractor in that scenario, and in fact, I actually think the bar is a lot lower than that. Like I think if you take somebody who's been open for a year, the likelihood that they have a list of a couple hundred people that they haven't seen in the last 3 months is pretty big.
Absolutely.
Right? So even if you walked into somebody who's like quote unquote new, this trick still works. And it's literally like this. It's like, hey, listen, would you like a bunch more patients to book with you next week and you don't have to spend any money on ads, right? Like who doesn't love that? Well, of course. Yeah, absolutely. How does it work? Well, take an offer, take any offer. Heck, it could be the offer that's on, like, that's plastered to the billboard that never goes away. The proverbial forever special, and just whatever it is, take that offer, grab that list of people you haven't seen, and shoot it out. And the biggest mistake, the only mistake most people make there is they push out to everybody all at once, but don't do that because you'll get overwhelmed with the response. But drip it out over a week, divide that list up. So there's 1,000 people, right? I don't know, whatever is that, 200 a day, 200 Monday, 200 on Tuesday, etc. And just say, hey, listen, we've got a special going on, or hey, we've got, five slots have just opened up, or, however you want to go about it. But it's amazing how many people will say, oh yeah, that's right, I haven't been in a while. I really need to go back in, and boom, overnight, you'll just fill up your roster.
I think that's really cool. And now let's fast forward a little bit now. Let's go into the agency owners that are serving chiropractors. And how do you see that developing?
First of all, if you want a great foot in the door, the database reactivation is by far and away the best foot in the door I've ever seen. So if you're trying to sell clients and you want to build some trust, that's a fantastic way to build trust. As far as that goes, if you go out and look at Google Trends and you search digital marketing agency and you zoom back to 2004 or 2003 when they first started actually putting that data together, never, ever, ever has that term been searched more than now. This is the absolute best time to be an agency. There are more people. There are chiropractors that before, I guarantee you, would have said, digital, no thanks. I've been open for 20 years or 30 years. I don't need your help. Go away. Who, because of COVID, they very quickly got the message. Look, you're either going to retire today, in which case you're out of the market, someone's going to come in and replace you, or if you're going to stay here, you better get online, you better get digital. So there's a lot of people who are looking for agencies right now. And I think it's a fantastic time to try to come in and help them. I think it's very important also for the agencies to realize that you're selling more than just service these days. You're also selling software. So, think about things like two-way text messaging, reputation management software, web chat software, Google My Business messaging software. Packaging those up as low price offers, super important. $297 a month. Here you go. Free leads coming in off your website every day from your web chat widget or your Google My Business messaging, getting more reviews automatically for your customers. That kind of thing is an awesome way to put a foot in the door and to create a recurring revenue stream that's compounding. Then you're selling your services in on top of that. And imagine if you've been an agency for more than 5 minutes, you've been into those situations where it's like, oh, I don't want to pay your retainer anymore, or I don't want to pay for the ads anymore. I want to pause. I want to take a break, whatever the language might be. Well, that software piece will remain as this recurring revenue piece month in and month out, and it builds over time. And so then the services come off and come back on as needed. And now you're not losing the entire customer when that happens, and you're still building up your revenue.
Such a powerful conversation today. I think that there's a lot of takeaways for people. And if people are watching this and you're not taking notes, shame on you. If you are finding some value in what Shaun and I are talking about today, hit the share button. If you have any questions for us, comment some questions in the chat there for us as well. As we get to this juncture of the interview, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but is there anything that you think that we should be sharing with people that I haven't asked you?
I think the future is really bright for agencies. I think agencies stand to continue to play such a pivotal role in the lives of their customers. One thing I would say is I think in the future, it's about a mindset shift. It's about realizing, excuse me, as an agency, you're going to be helping your customers, not just with services, not just with ads. I think your goal and job is to be a holistic provider of solutions. So that's software and services together, and really making it easy for your end customer to rely on you to basically solve all of those challenges, and trying to build your revenue base and your whole business around that idea. I think will make you a lot stronger, a lot more durable, and you're gonna solve your churn problem. That really is what's going to allow you to continue to scale up as an agency.
Well, just for instance, our agency works in the weight loss vertical, and we help chiropractors implement a weight loss system into their clinic. It's basically a turnkey. So what I've found from a lot of people in the space is they're like, wow, you actually teach us how to do the lead to conversion once they come into the office. And that's something that you said. You have to be more than just an agency. You have to give them a solution on the back end of how they can make money with the people that are coming in for those services. So the upsell. And I think that that's where a lot of people, like, they don't get it when they're an agency because they don't understand the market that they're serving that well. So they're like, yeah, we can drive you a bunch of leads, but then those leads show up and the person on the back end doesn't know how to convert those people into like a care plan or like a package.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's this misconception because I think that the agencies talk a lot about leads, and in their mind, a lead is like a name and an email and an opt-in to an offer. That's like the thing that they think they're providing. But their customer hears the word lead and they actually think customer, right? So you're not being hired to generate leads. You're being hired to generate customers. And if you're not converting those leads into customers, you're just not going to last that long because nobody wants more leads. Actually, leads are a pain in the butt if you think about it. I mean, if somebody dropped a page of 100 leads on my desk today and said, "Here you go, here's some great leads," they're like, "Yeah, but now what?" Right? Oh, well, you got to call them and nurture them and follow up and all, and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a chiropractor for crying out loud. I don't know how to do any of this. I'm going back to work. See ya." And you know what? We're going to cut you as an expense now because that just all you did is show up and give me more work. That's not what I want. I want customers. And so, but the opportunity there is also immense, right? So imagine then you do convert yourself to that business. So you're now not in the lead generation business. You're in the customer generation business. Well, wow, you're definitely in demand now. Who doesn't want more customers, right? And it becomes a differentiator because you can say, well, yeah, but I know you've heard from 10 other people, but those 10 other people are going to be delivering you leads, right? Well, do you really want leads? No, of course not. You want customers. Well, guess what? That's what I do. That's what I'm different. That's why I bring something special to the table. So I think it's about changing your mindset and changing how you operate.
And then it comes back to reputation and referrals and revenue. And I think that those things are really important. Like, we've never had to go look for a client because we've done such a great job that people just keep referring to us. And
I totally agree with that. I think you can build a great business off of referrals only if you simply focus on the right end goals for the customer.
Yeah, and then it, the word gets out there, like your software, when you go to that first mastermind and they're like, "Hey, this guy has done something really awesome to help you grow your business." They're like, "I'm in." and you don't even have to like sell it anymore. It's just it's intuitive that people need that.
Absolutely.
Well, Shaun, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Awesome. It was great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to see where you're going with this platform, and I look forward to working with you long term.
And I also wanted to throw out, I forgot, we have a Chiro Touch integration coming out this month. So that also is going to help chiropractic agencies quite a bit. So because Chiro Touch is, at least as I understand it, the largest system that chiropractors use. So that I think will be a big help on the reputation management and the reviews and chat side of the house as well.
Yeah, I think that when you get in with the bigger players in the chiropractic technology space, you're going to see that your platform is going to basically integrate right into what they're doing, and it's going to basically take whatever they've come up with and take those leads and nurture them better to where people are actually coming in as clients and they're getting serviced rather than running around in circles trying to find out what to do next. So exactly. I think it speeds up the process when you network with other people in the space that are helping the chiropractors take care of their patient base. And EHR is something that's massive, and I have a few connections with EHRs as well if you do want to have
any that if there's anything and they want to integrate with us, so that would be fantastic. I'd love to hear from them.
Well, you and I will have a long future together in this chiropractic space, and just wanted to say thank you for making some time today. I know you're a busy guy.
Likewise.
And I'll share this everywhere. If you would do the same, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Will do.
All right. Shaun, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right.